Yo, 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 welcome to another edition of the Geeky Bros podcast. I'm your boy Tactix.
Yo, it's just Darcy here.
This is Big Geeky. What? I don't know how to
Wha-
finish my own name, so I'm just going to move on because that's what we do here. And let's carry on. And how y'all doing today? And
Yo, that is one of your best intros yet, Umar. You are on your game today. That was as flawless victory as the whole Mortal Kombat movie we just saw, earlier this year.
just saw is a relative term.
I was trying to identify that it was the most recent, but it was still a better segue than yours.
Yes, very true. It's kind of difficult to beat mine. Viewers, if you have noticed that Tactix's facial hair has changed, and mine has relatively stayed the same. However, technically speaking, we both shaved at the same time because we're doing November. That's all. Yeah,
and he puts it on me because I didn't. Because I don't want to look like a 5-year-old because baby face all day over here. And I already can't grow anything in the middle of here. So I just, yeah. But I am getting a haircut soon. If that counts. All right, Umar. What's going on today?
Okay, well, we might as well jump into our first topic, which is going to be discussing our geeky news is going to predominantly focus on trailers. We got a few trailers this week, and I'm a little excited to start talking about it. So, first things first, the Morbius trailer. Now, Morbius, the movie, we were given a teaser before. I can't remember, but I was feeling just kind of like meh about it. I think the most happiest I was about it was the fact that Michael Keaton was in it. Aside from that, the full-length trailer has come out, and I want to know what you guys thought about it. So, Darcy, let's start with you.
All right. We saw the teaser and we saw the trailer. Teaser had me going meh. The trailer had me going meh. I want to say, I do feel like this is going to be better than Venom, but I feel like I'm still dealing with the whiplash that is Venom, and this is coming from the same house, so I'm worried. I'm worried that it's going to be ambitious and lacking, but my hope is. Because they very heavily hinted, even at the end of that teaser, he was like a web of something. I'm like, oh, Spider-Man, not laying that on thick. My feeling is that Sony has this plan, and they need Far From Home to come out so that we can see what's happening with Spider-Man going forward, or the universe of the Spider-Verse. And the first two Venom movies have been held back because they can't do anything with Spider-Man or the Spider-Verse. And so I'm hoping that their movies get better, because whatever happens in this movie, even though I don't want Tom Holland to leave the MCU, but whatever happens enables them to now actually start rolling stuff out, and then they don't have to make these half-ass movies because they're holding back the most important character to the universe. So I'm hoping it comes out good, but I'm also worried that it's going to be ambitious and miss the mark. That's how I feel.
Cool. T?
I enjoyed the trailer. There's a lot of really good visuals. I like how Morbius looks. All in all, yeah, it was an entertaining trailer, but so was Mortal Kombat, right? So look how that turned out. So yeah, and like Darcy mentioned, it's also housed by Sony, who they haven't really been putting out a lot of really good stuff lately. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it. And also, you guys know how I feel about villain-led movies, and it seems like, I don't know if this is going to be like an anti-hero type of thing where they're trying to, I know Morbius he's a different kind of breed because of the fact that he's a vampire struggling with his humanity, so you could kind of market it more so towards him being an anti-hero, trying to turn to the side of good, but being tempted by this his own inner demon kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that kind of has my interest peaked a little bit, but overall, I'm cautiously optimistic. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm actually less interested in this than I thought I would be. I thought that watching the full trailer, I would at least get some level of interest, but instead, I'm kind of like I found out the people who wrote the movie are the guys who did like the Dracula Untold and like Gods of Egypt, and those movies sucked. So I mean, I agree, it has a good look to it. Also, it looks like it's going to be very interesting in terms of like how the universe of Sony and Marvel are going to work together from now on. So it is rather interesting. Also, I kind of like the introduction of vampires in like superheroes to coincide with the fact that Blade eventually is going to be coming out soon, sometime. So we're getting the ground running now. Now Blade is MCU and Morbius is Sony. So like maybe we'll get across that way, or maybe they'll be able to talk about stuff like we don't know. But I guess yeah, we can kind of see from here on. But I guess it's just something that's for me currently it's underwhelming, but it is something I'm going to watch. Like I'm not looking forward to it, but at the same time, I'm not dreading to watch it. Just like I was dreading to watch like the original Justice League, and I said original Justice League, not the Snyder cut.
I mean, yeah, you weren't ready to watch the second one either.
Yeah, but like I respect you guys, and I don't want to hurt your feelings, so I'm talking about like the original.
Yeah, okay. I respect you guys, except for while we're watching the film in the background. Like
I was trying to be quiet. It's not my fault. You guys have really good hearing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Really good hearing. That's what it was.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on. The next trailer that we got to watch this week was the Book of Boba Fett. It's our first look at what the spin-off from the Mandalorian series is going to look like. And it's got Boba Fett. It's got our beautiful, beautiful Ming-Na Wen's Fennec, I think her name is. And yeah, like they're basically taking up from the looks of the trailer, they're taking up or taking over Jabba the Hutt's operation. So yeah, we got to see our first trailer of it, get like a minute and a half. It wasn't a in-depth trailer, but I want to know what you guys thought. So like T, how about we start with you? I know you're not the biggest Star Wars fan, but like based off what you saw in the trailer, did it pique your interest, or was it just more of the same that you've seen?
Yeah, it's more of the same that I've seen. I feel like this is very reminiscent of The Mandalorian. There's like because you guys are more familiar with the lore, I'm sure this is more up your alley, and you resonate a little bit more with this in terms of like the differentiation between the two characters. But for me, I didn't really see much of a difference, and so it just seems very derivative. And I mean, I'll still watch it, but I mean, I didn't see anything new that sets it apart from what I've seen in The Mandalorian. So I can't really speak to it in terms of how I feel beyond that. But I will check it out.
I actually didn't think you would want to check it out. So that's awesome. How about you, Darcy?
You know, I feel like, I mean, it is more of the same. I agree with that statement, but I want more of the same of like The Mandalorian. I like the vibe that I'm seeing from this, so I want to see more of it. Like I just saw the trailer and I was like, yep, I'm in 100%. Like I don't feel like the Boba Fett needs to be dramatically different from The Mandalorian. Like one, it's in the same universe. They've already interacted. There's similarities in their character because of their whole outfit. And it also, you know, was going into things that are related to, you know, the original series. So I don't know, like for me, everything about it felt right. Like if it was a completely different tone because it was his character, I don't know if that would be needed unless, you know, like they paint something that's really good. But for me, overall, this felt good. I'm in. Like I'm excited about it.
I would say for me, I'm I'm kind of with Tactics on this one. I'm like, meh. I mean, Jennifer Beals in it, so like, you know, I've always had a bit of a crush on her. But like, I'm just kind of like, meh. I'm more interested in the Mandalorian storyline than I am with Boba Fett. I've never been one of a fan of his. Everyone always talks about Boba Fett this, Boba Fett that, blah 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 blah, and I'm just like, okay. And that's just really how I left. I always felt that like he was like the uh the legacy or like the legend of Boba Fett always had more significant more weight than what actually was shown. And so like I just never cared. Then again, I didn't read the books or the comic books, so I don't know a lot about Boba Fett. But yeah, this like I was excited to watch The Mandalorian. I'm happy I'm watching The Mandalorian. But with this, I'll check it out. But like I'm not really expecting to be blown away, nor am I really expecting to like keep watching this. Like I'm gonna try it out just to see like if it holds my interest, to be honest.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I don't really know a lot about Mandalorian. Like as much as I know more about the lore than Tactics, I don't know a ton. And for me, I feel like I'm going in blind, but I think that that's like a positive thing for me, and that like I look at this and I'm like, that this looks like fun. It looks like more fun like the Mandalorian. I'm hoping the storyline is cool. But for me, it just looks like it's going to be um like the same universe, similar kind of fights, but a different badass kind of thing going on. And for me, that looks kind of like it's going to be fun and exciting
Mhm.
to enjoy. I don't think it's going to be as good, but I think it's going to be a fun ride. Is how I feel about it, and I'm open for more of that fun ride.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that like whatever we saw in like the Mandalorian season 2 with Boba Fett, like if that I mean, if we get this, if Tamor is able to like pull these moves out, I'll keep watching. I'll be like, do it, man, do it. But like, yeah, he would have to do something like this for me to like actually be excited for this film.
That's an interesting, very specific and unnecessary desire for the show, but more power to you.
Come on, let's get. I'm saying if they got more professional dance sequences or like just freestyling dance sequences on Star Wars, I'm not going to complain. But that's just me, I guess. T?
Bro, the only dancing in Star Wars has been the girls that get captured by what's his name?
Jabba.
Yeah, Jabba the Hutt. So like the dancing in this show is weak, and I don't think it needs much more than that.
But if Boba changes all of that and we get like, you know, like regular dance sequences, but like people who aren't enslaved by him.
Yeah, and this thing turns into Glee.
Well, they don't have to sing.
It's like a Disney. Well, it is Disney. Damn it.
No, okay. Actually, hold on. T. If there were like professional dance sequences in Star Wars, would that pull your interest more?
Not at all. Not at
Why?
all.
Why would it?
So like you just okay. I'm gonna ask you this on camera because I asked you in person, but now I'm gonna ask you on camera. This is an interesting segue that I'm gonna like pull off like completely like for free. I asked Tactix on the weekend, does he prefer fantasy or does he prefer sci-fi? T, what was your answer? I'm trying to remember.
Well, you determined that it was sci-fi because we were going down the list of different movies because I had a hard time differentiating. Well, not differentiating, but more so figuring out what is actually considered sci-fi. Because for me, sci-fi was like more like I was thinking more in the vein of like Star Wars, Star Trek, like things to do with space, right?
Yeah.
But then you were right. You made the point that the Matrix is also considered science fiction, right? So I was like, okay, yeah, well, yeah, then yeah, the Matrix is one of my it's in my top 5 of favorite movies, right? So yeah, but I can't really say the same for fantasy,
All
right?
right. So
Like
fantasy is kind of like Hellboy. I know
Lord
you
of
don't
the
like
Rings.
and I originally classified Hellboy as like a superhero movie. Like I know that's not a genre per se, but I didn't actually consider it to be fantasy. It was more I was grouping it more in like
with superhero
whatever.
stuff. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fair. So okay, then in this situation, let's make superhero films its own genre. We have enough
Yeah.
movies to classify it for its own
I
genre.
think at this point it is because it's
Yeah.
unique. It's like it doesn't because you put like Harry Potter down as fantasy and like Lord of the Rings as fantasy. You don't put Avengers in that category. It feels wrong. Like it just doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it fits.
Okay, so so Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, those are like like staples, but there's like anything with vampires in it, anything
Right.
supernatural, like vampires, werewolves, so like oh, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Twilight counts for it. Buffy's considered fantasy.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm going back to Twilight. I'm like, is that like
We
when
don't have to.
you know when they cross like like say multiple different genres at a time? Is that like rom-com or like dramatic rom fantasy? Like when you like how do you it's like this is a fucked up genre right here.
Okay, Demon Slayer. It's an anime, yes, but like the genre of anime would be supernatural, aka fantasy. I'm trying to think. Raya the Last Dragon.
You start getting into some gray areas when you start adding it, like anime
I
and
know.
animated films and stuff.
Oh, Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat's fantasy.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, because it's not fundamentally like science fiction would be fundamentally based in taking a science and making
Right.
it fictional, like usually future state, or like steampunk would also be kind of like that as well, as in like you have
Yeah.
a fundamental science that you're basing this off of, but you're diverging.
Would
See,
old guard be
I think a lot of these would be like there would be obviously there are subgenres, right? Because it's like there's fantasy, right? Like and then action adventure, which would be like Harry Potter type of thing, right? I'm trying to figure out what that group is in terms of like Harry Potter and like the monster one, the other one, the prequels. I forget Fantastic Beasts, like that.
Fantastic Beasts?
Yeah.
The Witcher?
Like things yeah, like things like that. I'm like I'm not crazy about those kind of like and like Game of Thrones and all that stuff. Like that's not really my shit. And I feel like I group all of those into one category.
But
Fantasy.
Buffy would fall into that category.
Would it though? I mean, it's like, but it's like a different kind of fantasy for me. I feel
I think
like it
it's
doesn't
it's
have
modern
the
day
same.
fantasy.
Yeah,
Yes,
maybe
that's
okay, yeah. So that's I guess that's the genre or the group that I'm thinking of. If it takes me too like out of like, if it's too fantastical, like then it kind of it takes me out of it a little bit. And I don't know what it is. I like maybe I just don't fuck with wizards like that. Like it's not really my shit. Like I don't know, man. I just
You shall not pass or watch this movie.
Okay, so yeah, so then it does sound like you naturally gravitate. So okay, so anything with vampires, would you say like True Blood or Buffy or Angel? Are those things that like as long as they take place in the modern day, are you or like Underworld even?
so okay. So here's the thing though, because I
And
fucking
Blade.
hate Twilight, and that had
We
vampires
all
in
hate
it.
Twilight.
Yeah, I know. We all in agreement there. We don't even have to bring it up, you know? That's how
Yeah.
much we
Like
True
I
Blood,
hated myself that I actually brought up Twilight, and I feel bad for it, and I apologize to both of you.
yeah, like my ex tried to get me to watch that. Like she showed me like the end scene for like the last movie because they had like this big epic battle or whatever, and then it turns out to be like one big dream. And I was like, okay, well, you just
What?
ruined it. Yeah, it was like, and it was a pretty dope. Like, I'll give it credit. It was like a pretty dope like end battle, but the whole thing was just BS because it was just a dream. Like some chick was creating this whole like premonition of what could happen as a warning kind of thing, and it was like, okay, so all that was for nothing.
It was like a genjutsu, but like a premonition version.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, well, you
just
just
calling it a
lost me.
genjutsu makes it cool, but like we know that
I know.
it's Twilight, so it wasn't cool. So
No.
it was just a dream.
I've seen more than one of the Twilights, unfortunately, because I saw the first one, and I was annoyed with that thing. The last one I ended up seeing, I can't remember why, but I was so mad at it. It was there's so many stupid things in it, especially. And the one thing you should watch, go on YouTube and watch clips of the vampire baby in the last one, because it's like they CGI this. They basically have a child and it like grows to like it grows at like a ridiculous rate. Like in a week, it's like a teenager. But they when it comes out, they have to like CGI this face onto this baby, and it's so bad. It's like worth watching clips just to laugh, because it's like just imagine CGIing a face onto a moving baby. Like, think about it.
To be honest, I don't want to do that because I don't want my algorithm on YouTube to suddenly start giving me more Twilight suggestions.
Yeah, that is smart. That's why you use incognito window, not just for porn, but also for that.
All right, so then by default, sci-fi is your go-to.
Yeah, if it's between sci-fi and fantasy, I'd probably lean more towards sci-fi. But again, I feel like it has to be a particular type of genre. Like I really enjoy things like obviously The Matrix. What's something similar to that in that same kind of vein? Would Inception be more?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
some like an Inception,
very science
like,
fiction. Very.
Yeah, like shit like that really will really pique my interest.
Free Guy would also be considered sci-fi.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because like AI.
Yeah, I mean it's based on video games, which therefore is science-based.
Speaking of AI, I Robot, I really enjoyed. I know it was
heavily science fiction,
underrated movie,
perfect.
but yeah, like something like that. Like again, I don't know where the line is, because that almost feels a very fan. Is that sci-fi or is that more?
That would be sci-fi.
Sci-fi, yeah.
Well, hold on, it got zombie. No, okay, hold up. Is zombies considered sci-fi? I would think so.
I think it depends on how you build up the movie, but it's kind of like
I struggle with this
horror science fiction. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, like Alien or Predator.
Yeah, those are also yeah.
So,
horror.
See, you just don't like anything in space. You just like all like stuff like science fiction and on planet Earth.
See, but that's the thing though, because I really enjoyed Interstellar, and that was in space.
So it's I don't think it's the location. I think for Tactix, it's more the like plausibility and the tangibility of it, right? Like you take like Star Trek, and it's science fiction, but it's science taken many years ahead, and there's not a lot that's like he could probably see himself in, right? Because it's so not happening now, versus like something that is like little more plausible, except for like Matrix. That's completely like not close, but there's like a thing to it. I don't know. That's like my interpretation of it. No, I mean, as in it's not like this could happen in 5 years, likely, unless there's something we just don't know what's happening on this planet.
Was there that's a
deep well right there.
That's a deep well. I get you. I'm with you on that. That's
a deep well. Yeah.
There's a lot of shit that's going on in this world we don't know about. Area 51 be one of them. So
Yeah.
So like okay, so Interstellar is the space travel one that you liked?
Well, because it dealt with quantum physics, and it fucked me up a little bit in the sense of like it made me want to invest time outside of the movie to learn more about all this stuff that was going on, and especially because it's Christopher Nolan and he actually does his research on this stuff, and like there's a lot of plausibility there, right? Even with the dreams, like the dreams are like how you go into like the different levels that's dealing with the subconscious mind, which I've been studying for like the last year and a half bit for my online course or whatever, right? So like all of that stuff that kind of like I've already kind of been exposed to, and like seeing it being kind of extrapolated in movies, it always fascinates me. And even with like the Matrix, like the concepts are there's a lot of subtleties and a lot of undertones that are very relevant to real life, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit later, but like even with like the Neo and the whole concept of like being the one, and like part of you has to die in a sense to ascend to that other level. And that deals with like the whole ego complex type of thing, where it's like your ego, you have to kill your ego essentially to ascend to that next level. Anyway, can go on a tangent on that, but it's like more so movies like that really now as I'm getting older and I'm becoming a lot more mature. The movies that I watch now are very relevant to a lot of the things that I've been exposed to or that I read or that I can learn from in a sense, right? With wizards, it's like or what I think about with like wizards and shit like that. It's like it's cool, but it's like it pulls me too out of it to the point where it's like I don't know how I can relate to this yet. I don't know what life lessons I can pull from this. And sometimes it's not always about that in terms of me watching movies. Like sometimes I do want to just turn my brain off and like not think. This is why I watch anime dubbed, right? But you know, there are times when I am watching my movies and like I do want to be like pulled in and invested in that world. But then when I come out of that world, I want to be able to pull something away from it, if that makes sense.
So okay.
You could have said like Fast and Furious. You could have said Fast and Furious, and then anime dub just set Umar spinning.
Moving right past it. I'm like, I think I love him. I respect him. I accept this part of him. I'm moving on. All right. So I wanted to ask then. For me, I would say that the reason why wizards and like vampires and that sort of things, like those things, that the reason why they like connect with me or interest me is because it's like, as a kid or like kind of like learning something, like learning about magic or like learning like a sort of power. That's something from a kid that like I still hold on to. Are you saying that never was really something you grew up with that you were like wanting to feel?
No. So for me, it wasn't wizards. For me, actually, it was dinosaurs. Like I remember I remember I used to love that. I could list all the dinosaurs. Like I was a big dinosaur buff back in the day, like back in grade 1 and shit like that. And so when Jurassic Park
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I used to, but like now I kind of outgrew that though. Like I like now I'm kind of like I see dinosaurs, I'm like, oh okay, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like it's all right. Like I'm like now I'm invested in other things. But at that time, like for you and like you say that wizards was that for you. For me, it was dinosaurs. Like that was my shit. Jurassic Park, Land Before Time. I watched all of them like back to back over and over again, cried my eyes out every time. Like that was my shit back in the day. So yeah, it was dinosaurs for me back then.
Land Before Time is tough.
It's a hard watch. It's a hard watch
in a good way.
Very good too. Yeah, 100%, man, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it hits you in the feels. But yeah, that was it for me. But Darcy, what was it for you in terms of like I know we're kind of like switching gears in a lot of ways.
I'm liking this. Let's keep going. Yeah.
I'm good with this. Darcy, you just sent me on a whirlwind bringing up Land Before Time. Because I used to watch that when I was young too, and I'd just be like crying. He loves his mom. His mom.
Yo, when he was licking his own reflection on the rock, that still hits me even when I was like, oh.
I haven't watched that in forever. I got man. Next time we bring the niece and nephew around the house and we're like, yo, have you seen this movie before? Let me put this on right here. And they go, like we go be able to just water.
It cuts deep, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what I used to like love when I was a kid. I honestly feel like the pinnacle for me when I was a kid that I was really into, ironically, is like the cop-out answer here, but it was whenever I got to get my hands on superhero stuff. Like when I was a kid, like it just, and it wasn't like I could always get my hands on superhero stuff, right? Because like, you know, like unlike kids today, if you're watching this, you won't know that we didn't have on-demand services. You show up if it was there. Like I guess the other thing I just like loved, and I saw this TikTok the other day, and apparently this isn't the thing anymore. Saturday morning cartoons. Apparently that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, Umar's face. Yeah, apparently it doesn't exist anymore. Like because of on-demand streaming and stuff like that. Why would they be showing up at a specific time to watch anything? Right.
And so that was the shit on the weekends, man. Like you work a hard day Monday to Friday at school, and then you just you're so eager to just wake up. You know what I mean? Like
work a hard day.
That's how it felt.
That book's hard, bro.
That's how it felt though.
come inside and
how
like,
it's
oh, pass me a beer.
No, pass me the hot chocolate, bro. Like
exactly, I
Pass me
know.
apple juice. I want
I know.
get
yeah,
into
man.
it.
Oh no, but like Looney Tunes, and then when they had like the spin-off with like the younger ones, which is all right,
Tiny
but like
Toons?
as a kid, yeah, but like
Yo,
Looney
Tiny Toons
Tunes,
was a shit, man.
yeah, Looney Tunes though, like yo, and then if you got a surprise, but there would always be like that there would always be this, right? You come on, let's say you got up extra early one day, right? You got up extra early, and they had that one crap show before the good show. You're
Yeah,
like,
you have to wait, yo. Like,
you're like, what am I gonna do for 30 minutes?
but you know what was good though, because you had it on 2 channels, because you had Fox TV and then you had YTV, right? So
Yeah.
for me, I would just switch back and forth.
And global sometimes.
But then sometimes they fuck you up because like 2 good shows would happen at the same time, and you're like, fuck. So I would end up taping one and then watch the other one.
Oh man, you smart. I didn't have none of that down.
The worst
Yeah,
is when they had like when they like switched it up, like they switched the schedule and they put like a news channel. I'm like, I don't want to see Saturday morning on with these people.
Yeah, that sucked.
Oh,
All right, okay. So wizards and superheroes for me, dinosaurs for tactics, and just straight up superheroes. For,
no, superheroes too. That was
all
my
right. So like so like superheroes all across. So then wizards, dinosaurs, and just superheroes with Darcy.
Superheroes.
Superheroes.
Oh, what? Wait,
All right.
what about Power Rangers though?
Oh, I love Power Rangers.
That's superheroes right there.
Okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah,
I mean, they had magic rings, but like they superheroes because they got like.
Yeah.
Actually, hold on. Technically speaking, no, they're sci-fi because they had Zords and also guys that came from a dimension.
Yeah, but all superheroes are sci-fi. Tony Stark is the most sci-fi superhero ever. Like, it's more science fiction than Power Rangers is, right? Like, it just is, right? Like,
I'm like King Arthur is pure fantasy, but he's considered a superhero.
What? Really?
Yeah, I do not. No, when you try going medieval and stuff like that, unless it's like unless you have like a DC or Marvel give you a cosign as to why they pulled this guy with this
Dark Horizons and Image.
Actually, when I was younger, I did actually enjoy the King Arthur storyline, like the lore.
Yo, shit, seriously?
Yeah, I used to watch. There was a show that came out like back in the day. It's called Camelot or whatever. And
we had a Camelot series.
Yeah, we had I think it was maybe it was a movie. I can't remember, but I remember it came on TV and I watched it and I was like, yo, this shit is interesting. And like, like Lancelot is like sleeping with the king's wife. Guy, what the fuck is going on here, man? This is crazy. So yeah, like I was into knights back in the day for a bit. Like I had my knight moment, and then I kind of grew out of that too. So dinosaurs and medieval times, like.
Just out of curiosity, would you say, hypothetically, that you still have some like buried love for Arthurian legends, or are you just like over that now?
He's just trying to sell you into the fantasy world. That's all he's doing.
I just want to know.
He's just trying to bring you in. Don't fall for it.
You know what? I know for a fact I can't do Lord of the Rings. I tried and I can't do it.
No.
However,
I'm being specific to Arthurian.
Okay. So I really enjoy. So it took some coursing to get me to watch these movies, but I actually really enjoyed obviously Gladiator. I enjoyed Troy. What else was there? Those are the 2 movies that I can think of off the top of my head that I really, really enjoyed for that time period.
One's historical fiction, the other one is like mythological. So like, that's not really like I'm talking about like
but you know me, I group them all together. Like for me, that it's just all one thing for me. Like they all got swords and shields. Yeah, that's it for me, man. That's
yeah.
Okay, well, this surprisingly actually fits with our next topic. So, moving on. No, it does. No. T, keep us like all 3 because like I kind of want to see your reactions when I do this. So I'm going to take my opportunity and I'm going to do a public service announcement on behalf of the Eternals movie. Now, Darcy and Tactix, and I'm pretty sure almost everyone else watching this, have not seen the Eternals. Only I have, because I was like, no, I'm gonna watch this like the first time I can. So I watched it last night, and also a bit of perspective. Currently, it is getting blasted by the critics. I think it's the first MCU film to get a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes. I think right now it's at 50%, but it was 49 earlier in the day. But I think, like, who knows, it may go back to being 49 again, or God knows, it might go down to 47. Anyway, so I found this to be rather odd. So I went into this movie really worried. Oh, Darcy, how bad is it now?
It's 49 right now.
Motherfucker. Okay, anyway. So I went into this movie last night worried. And I, like, y'all know when we last talked about this, last week, both of you were just like, I don't care. And I was like, well, I'm feeling like kind of like attacked right now because you guys are not into this movie. So after getting it like for the last week review blasted, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hate this movie, aren't I? And I'm gonna be brokenhearted, and I'm gonna come out of this movie just crying because I everything I hoped for got like trampled. My non-spoiler public service announcement is the critics are fucked, and I don't know what movie they went to go see, because this movie is not bad, nor is it the worst Marvel film. I can think like Age of Ultron, in my opinion, worst. Iron Man 2, worse. Captain Marvel, worse. Like, there are worse Marvel films. So I'm actually a little surprised that this has gotten such a negative response. Actually, I'm not surprised, because I'll get to that later. So personally, I did read some critic reviews, and then I started watching the movie. While watching the movie, I was like, yeah, I don't think Darcy and Tactix are going to like this movie at all. And then I got halfway into the movie, and I'm like, actually, I think Darcy and Tactix might surprisingly enjoy this movie, just like I am. And then I got 3/4 of the way through, and I'm like, actually, no, I don't think they're going to like this at all. And then at the end of the movie, I was like, I actually have no idea if Darcy and Tactix are going to like this movie at all. Like, I have, even after this conversation, I have no idea where you two are going to fall on this. And I'm just like, I guess I'm going to have to wait and watch and see what you guys have to say. Because there were times I'm like, yo, they're not going to enjoy this. And then I'm like, yo, they actually might enjoy this for different reasons. And then I'm like, I think collectively they're going to be like, maybe not. And then I was like, I can't tell right now because the ending just happened. So I don't know about you two, but personally, I give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Now, I think there are three reasons.
I give it a 0 out of 10 because I haven't seen it yet.
Yes, I know. I would say that there are three reasons why this movie is getting blasted by critics. One, it is the most un-Marvel film in the MCU. Yes, they have maybe one or two tropes from the Marvel formula, but that's about it. It is pretty much like it does. You're watching it and you're like, I don't know if like you couldn't tell based on watching it that it's an MCU film. You're just going to be watching it and you're like, huh, interesting. Secondly, and I'm actually sad I'm going to have to like bring this up, but I think there's a lot of unconscious bias from the reviewers, because a lot of them were calling this boring or not very well character developed or kind of just like lacking its substance, and I couldn't disagree more with those things. I felt it was very character focused, and I actually found it to be rather poignant, and also it had a lot of deeper meaning. Then again, so to my final point, this is an artsy mythological film that is trying to compress and process some very, very dense comic books that are not as well known. So this was a tall order to begin with. And I'm going to say that it does a good job of processing it for like the everyday person to watch it, but it's still a lot to digest. It's not stupid and it's not boring. It's just a lot to digest. You're like, wait, well, wait, what did he say? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. And then at the end, you're like, I guess the Avengers are definitely gonna have to deal with that later. And then you see the mid and post credit scene, and you're just like, yo, the Avengers are fucked. Like, how are they gonna even like compare to any of this? So it also sets up it. It is absolutely necessary to watch this because it sets up Phase 4 and everything going forward. Like they're even bringing back, like they brought up Thanos, and Thanos has a connection with the Eternals, and it's actually left me to be like theorizing what that connection could be. So yeah, those are my initial thoughts and my hopefully non-spoilery review. Now having heard my initial thoughts, how do you guys feel about the film? Tactics, let's throw it to you first.
Your rating is concerning because that's pretty low for you considering it's a Marvel movie. So I mean, it could go either way. I could go in really loving it because you tend to hate a lot of the movies that I like, but if you usually give movies a high rating, then that's usually a good tell that I'll like it. You know,
Jimmy
because
really liked it.
Jimmy really liked it.
Yeah, I thought he would hate it.
Okay, that gives me a little bit more confidence then. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I personally, I'm not all that interested to watch this movie. I'm just watching it out of sheer curiosity, to be honest, because like nothing, like even this shot right here that we're playing right now on loop, like it's not appealing to me. Like nothing I've seen in this trailer is really, aside from like Selma Hayek, nothing has really piqued my interest at all.
What
Like
about Gemma Chan,
I don't know who that is.
the Asian girl?
I don't know who that is. Again, I mean she's cute, but I don't know who she is. I know Selma Hayek and I know Angelina Jolie.
Okay,
That's it. So
okay.
yeah, I mean it's great that the critics got this wrong, and you know, like do you foresee this like turning into a franchise similar to Avengers, or is this?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't think it was even meant to do that. Because and you'll understand that when you watch the ending.
So there's still a point, like they're building to something, but not necessarily with the Eternals, is what you're saying.
More like the Eternals are going to be background characters. That's my opinion. I think this was meant to be like set up characters that are going to be interweaving in literally all the films. But I don't think this is meant to be like a Eternals 2 or something like that.
Yeah, again, that like just based off of that as well, like I'm kind of like, why? I guess I'm obviously I'll understand more when I see the movie for myself. It's just for me, I can understand why we're doing Shang-Chi. Like I get it, right? And they didn't set up much, but there is some sort of a tie-in, and so it's like, okay, yeah, it's got me interested to see what happens next. This is premature of me to say, but it's just like I don't know where they're leading. And if these guys are like super strong, like stronger than the Avengers, and yeah, I guess I don't know the rules in terms of like why they stay out of fights and shit like that. So I guess once all of that is unveiled, then like it'll make more sense. It just for me, I'm just like if these characters are so strong, then where the fuck have they been this entire time? Like why have they been? Who benched them? Like. So yeah,
You'll find all of that out.
Darcy.
Okay, no, that's kind of what I thought. Okay, Darcy, how about you?
I have a couple of thoughts. Like one, my worry is that it's going to be a movie where at some times I'm going to enjoy myself and other times I'm going to be bored. And I'm going to be bored from them being too artsy about it. And not that I want something simple, but that I don't know, they're just going to put form over function in a way, like at times. But I think it's going to be cool moments. I don't have a problem with this idea that like these characters will be interwoven and, you know, moving things along, and whatever's going to happen with Doctor Strange is doing, or if that is Doctor Strange, and how that all kind of plays out. I think there's going to be some interesting things. Like I like the idea of the MCU being more complex going forward, because you can get into this boring habit of like, okay, we spent how many years building up how many movies where we like built up a team, and then the team fights a big bad, right? And then the team kind of comes apart. And what we're gonna do? Build up another team and fight another big bad. And if you just do the exact same thing, we'll see it coming too far. Whereas if there's more interwoven and there's more like in-depth story, and there's all this connection forward and backward, then it's going to be very interesting, and they'll have fun messing with us in terms of like theories and stuff like that, especially when there's like all these branching ideas with multiverse. There's a lot of theories that can happen. It makes it more complex and interesting of a universe than if it literally was a very linear story that just kept cycling itself, which is I'm cool with that. I just feel like I've been presented something, and the presentation to sell me on it just isn't a good presentation. So I'm not excited. I'm hoping that it surprises me. But I'm worried that it's just going to be like a really big exposition to set up the rest of the MCU, and not a great movie as a whole. But I think it'll be artsy. But you know how when there's those great movies, are like, oh, they're amazing, they're the most artsy film of whatever, but they're just not the greatest film, right? You know, like
Mhm.
you don't enjoy yourself. It's like more for the people who create the genre, like, or sorry, create the medium, and it's like it's more entertaining them than the people it's meant to serve, you know. But I also, one thing I've got the rumors of, and I'm going to say it more bluntly, this bias feels like it's racism though. Like there's like
I completely agree.
I feel like there's some hints that like people just want to trash this film because of its multiculturalism and whatnot. So I'm sure
That is the unconscious bias that I was referring to. There's sexism, there's racism in this.
yeah. I mean, when has there not been in anything?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not excited. I'm hoping the big bad's kind of cool, or whatever the threat is. You know, whatever the issue that they're facing, even if it was like internal. But it needs to be better than what's been presented in these commercials. 'Cause, like, just seeing this is like, it looks cool, but I just don't have anything for this to be other than something that like looks dope. Also, why does this remind me of Reboot? Anyways, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I can kind of see that. It's like the virus, Damon, right?
I don't know. Just like I just all of a sudden thought of Reboot out of nowhere.
Oh.
Just something
Oh,
with
we got
I
a,
went-
we got a
I went
comment
to
from Ron
Avatar.
Arce.
yeah, that
Um,
too, 100%. I mean, like, I'm not gonna say it's one thing more than the other. Just like it reminded me of something.
Yeah.
We got a comment from Ron R saying, "I'm excited to watch it even with the bad reviews. Don't trust the bad reviews." I think that's my main mission statement. Do not trust the reviews. Go into this. Go into this blind, or go into this with like a worry. Either or, I don't think you need to be worried, because like, I went in worried and I came out happy. Like, yeah, Tactix, you're right. 7.5 is not exactly a like bellowing praise, but
Not
also
bad.
like if you're sorry,
It's not bad.
yeah, it's not a bad film. I found it to be an enjoyable film. Now, I can argue that it not being a typical, like, kind of going back to what you were saying, Darcy, where like doing the same formula of like getting a team together, fighting the big bad, the team dies, then getting another team better. Like, it doesn't do that. It sets up a brand new complicated world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something it did well. When I see the reviews, there are a lot of them complaining that this film wasn't doing as well as like previous movies, like Marvel movies. But this movie like wasn't trying to be a movie. It was trying to be a film, a story, character in-depth film, a story focused that would then branch out into other things and set up some interesting things that we can like hypothesize until the next movie. So like that also is completely unlike the previous Marvel films that were just trying to like kind of introduce us to cool things that we knew as kids. This is like, hey, this is still part of the same universe that no one really knew about except for like the real big comic book fans. Now you guys get to enjoy it, or apparently not.
Good pitch.
Anyway, so that's me just saying, don't listen to the reviews. Go and watch it with an open mind, or even if you have a negative mind, I think this movie is going to change your mind. In terms of my anticipation or like me gauging whether you guys are going to like it, I have no idea, and I kind of really want to know where you guys land.
No clue.
Okay. Well, we will see. All right. So moving on. Our final topic today is something I've been wanting to talk about for a little bit, but we've never really had a lot of time. I took some time and decided to revisit the Matrix trilogy. I did this because I saw the trailer for Matrix Resurrection that's coming out later this year, I think in Christmas. And I was like, you know what? I haven't watched these movies in a while. Maybe they're not as bad as I thought. So after watching the Matrix trilogy, I will have to say that my thoughts didn't really change that much. I will say that the first one is by far the best one, and it holds up even to this day. Like, that is the shit, and it never will stop being the shit. But I also found that there are reasons why that happened, which I'll get to later. For the Matrix, is it Reloaded? I think the second one is Reloaded.
Yeah.
That is an unfortunately done film. And I would say that there are two things about it that are unfortunate. One, they got full of themselves, and also like the studios got involved, and they're like, we want bigger, we want better. So they're like, cool, we'll have Neo fight a whole bunch of Agent Smiths. Why? No reason whatsoever. I could not come up with a reason why that fight took place. And you can kind of make a lot of statements about a lot of things that happened in that movie. It's like, why are they doing this? I didn't have to ask why in the previous film because everything made sense and everything was a complete storyline. So that's one problem. The second problem is they felt good about the fact that they were able to bring in metaphysical, philosophical conversations in the first movie and perfectly intertwine it with what was happening. Like, just like what you were talking about, Tactix, about like the ego and having to kill the ego to attain the next level. Ignorance is bliss. Like the level of control, the level of awareness, like just being able to, if you want to remain blind or if you want to know the truth. You got a whole lot of really fascinating philosophical conversations mixed in with some truly awesome fighting and truly awesome gun work. Like, it had the whole package. The second one was like, yo, we're going to do that. So we're like, not only are we going to do big and better with the guns, we're going to do big and better with the BDSM and all like the wearing like leather and shit. And then we're going to have like random kung fu battles with like all these sorts of shit. But then also we're going to just like throw in huge philosophical conversations like fatalism and like determinism and like causality. And like, we're just going to have people just stop everything and talk about what each of them are, give some random points of view on them, and also make some villains that can like give exposition. And then we're going into the next fight. So I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this movie's choppy all over the place. And then on top of which, they have the architect who, like, I understand they're trying to say that since he's a machine who's been around for 600 years, he probably has a really good IQ and like good, you know, he's well read. But like, if you make it difficult for the person watching the movie to not understand what the guy is individually saying or revealing, which is kind of really fucked up stuff, you kind of miss the mark. So that's the Reloaded part. Then we move into Revolutions. The first 3/4 of that film were awesome. Like, I actually was watching it. I'm like, you know what? This movie is a lot better than I remember. I am thoroughly engaged. The siege of Zion is really well crafted and like all that stuff. And then it just comes to abrupt halt. And then they start doing the Neo stuff, which ordinarily is the thing that I like, but it just slowed everything down. And then he was connected to the source and was able to manipulate all these sorts of things. And then they had that moment where they went back into the Matrix to get him because he was like stopped in like some sort of like train station, and like they're fine. They talked about how machines are starting to fall in love with each other, but even that was kind of like just glossed over just to get to the point, so like the things will carry on. And then he fights Agent Smith in the Matrix. For what purpose? Like the entire fight was meant to be cool, but like really it came down to the fact that he was willing to sacrifice himself because he chose to, and give himself over, which allowed the source to then destroy the Agent Smith virus. Or I'm sure you can come up with more philosophical meaning behind that, but it was lost on how stupid the fight sequences was, and it went on and on, and it was not nearly as engaging as the Siege of Zion. So after all of this, the movie ended, and I'm just like, they really should have just stopped after the first one, because everything they accomplished by the second and third one were completely lost with the fact that they just did massive dumps of philosophical exposition thrown in with random fight sequences with like CGI that was not perfected for it. And ultimately just was a blah. So yeah, that was me revisiting the Matrix. And God, I hope that in the last 15 years that they make Resurrections good. I want it to be like it was in the first one, because I like the interwoven storyline with philosophical meaning and even some religious meaning, and also like just a really like, it's not about good versus evil, it's about your own personal journey. So anyway, I've gone off for a while. Tactix, Darcy. Basically, I'm sure you guys haven't revisited the Matrix or the trilogy in a while, but like based on what I'm saying right now, does this like hit any chords with you? Darcy, let's start with you. I can't hear Darcy. Is it just me?
My bad. I had myself on mute. I forgot. I made a joke. The joke did not land because you did not hear it. I was teasing that I had never seen the Matrix. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't rewatched it in a while, and I like remember when I was young that like Reloaded was one that like when I was a kid I'm like, oh, these like that hallway fight scene with all the guns. I'm like, that's so cool. But that's literally all I remember from that film, and that and that probably is the most telling part, because I honestly think that that's what that film was set up to do. Was like, here's a teen or like a young kid who like, oh, this is so cool, give me more bullet time, and it's basically just a movie just to do that.
And more hot women in leather apparently as well.
Yes, very, very. I'm not trying to say it. Yeah, like it's just the first one is the good one, second one is the forgettable one, and the third one I enjoyed and remember scenes of, but I definitely don't remember the whole film. At the time, is it the third one where he fights all of the Agent Smiths at the end?
No, he fights one, but they're all watching.
Oh, I was thinking of the one with like the 100 Agent Smiths in that.
That's the second one.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. I thought that was in the third one. Yeah, I remember that the last one ends something with him actually going to the Matrix, like in real life or something. I don't remember these films, bro. See, you set me up to talk about something that I haven't watched in like 20 years.
I apologize.
Anyways, yeah, first one's the best one. Tactix.
So I have watched the trilogy recently. because my girl hadn't seen. I think she saw the first one, but she never actually saw the entire trilogy. So we
Gotcha.
we ended up watching the entire trilogy together, and she enjoyed them. Um, Me having revisited them, the first one, of course, still stands up. It still holds up. And I like rewatching those kind of movies because I always kind of pick up on something that I missed, or I'm at a different point in my life where the messages now kind of hit different.
Hmm.
And it's especially the case in the Matrix. There's a lot of great quotes there. I like the philosophical element to it, especially this scene right here. There is no spoon. I've done a video on that before, but the second and the third one, I I kind of agree with you, Umar. There was a lot of stuff that they didn't quite hit the mark. They set up something really great with the first one, and then I felt like there was a lot of great potential because I feel like while I agree that the first one didn't need to have a follow-up, like the way they ended it could have kind of ended it there, but at the same time I felt like they left it open-ended because the first movie was all about them trying to find Neo with the sole purpose of him being their savior to basically end the war against the machines and create this salvation for Zion, right? So at the end of the Matrix, we never actually got that. We got the fact that Neo is essentially his old self, his ego has died, and now he's ascended to his true form, his spiritual essence, the spiritual one, right?
Yeah.
And now, given that he's unlocked this power and he's had his enlightenment or his awakening, he's now going to be the one to end the war. And ultimately, they got to that road with the third movie, except of course, like you said, they didn't quite hit the mark. That being said, there was still a lot of good stuff in there that I enjoyed. The CGI was not one of them, but they still maintained really cool action scenes that we had not seen at that time. Like that was probably one of the best highway chase scenes that I've seen since Bad Boys 2. And
Woo!
I can't remember which one came first, but I just remember like wow, that was an overwhelming action scene, but in the best
Yeah.
possible way. Like they gave me so much in such a short amount of time. I was left there like, what the fuck did I just watch? Right.
Like
So
honestly, I would say the best part of the second film is that scene.
yeah, and I mean there was cool stuff. There was cool stuff sprinkled here and there within both of the franchise. I felt like the third movie was a bunch of exposition, which kind of pulled me out of the movie a little bit but at the same time, it was kind of like, okay, I agree. I was trying to follow it, especially when they got to the architect, but he was seeing a lot of like really convoluted like things that I was like, I'm having a hard time following it. And
Yeah,
it
no, you're not wrong because like I think that was like kind of like the main criticism of the second
yeah,
film because like for
yeah, yeah.
me, I didn't fully understand until like when I rewatched it just now what he was saying. He was essentially saying that the creation of the one and also like the creation of Zion actually
Mhm.
is a is actually purposely allowed by the machines as a form of control so that all those who are rejecting the matrix are released and then they are killed and then you reboot it and then you start all over again. It's kind of like they were like the machines purposely created the rebellion 6 times as a way of maintaining humans under control. I didn't get that the first like 3 times I watched that when I was like younger.
Mhm.
I got it this time though.
Yeah, and I think in the first movie, Agent Smith kind of alluded to that concept briefly when they captured
Morpheus.
Morpheus, and he was talking about how humans are the disease, like they couldn't live with their own paradise, so they chose to destroy it because um that utopian way of living felt constricting to them, right? And so
Well, it
they
was something
chose
they
to
were trying to
create.
wake up from.
Yeah, because they couldn't understand the concept of it, and so they destroyed themselves as a result of it. And then that's how that whole process of the Matrix continued to reboot itself, which I found really fascinating. But at the same time, it was kind of like, well, okay, so then is there any such thing as the one then, or is it just like a loop that just keeps going? But then, with the whole concept of of quantum physics, and I'm still trying to understand quantum physics. It's very, very dense, but they're talking
Yeah.
about how, like, there's dimensions upon dimensions upon dimensions. So it's like, you have your 1D world that, when you stack a bunch of 1D worlds on top of each other, it becomes 2D, and then you stack them again, it becomes 3D, and then 4D, and then you can keep stacking them to the point where it's like an endless amount of dimensions. So there's like, the quantum physics basically suggests that there's like multiple versions of us. Like, so I'm talking in the context of like real world scenario, like there's multiple versions of you, and your consciousness, because it's not tangible, it can basically come out of your physical essence and go into a different iteration of you from a different dimension. And so when they were talking about how Neo is like the seventh one, it
Yeah.
kind of got me thinking in that context of like, oh, okay, so it's like, are they trying to kind of highlight quantum physics in a way where it's like there's multiple versions of us, and like our like our destiny is predicated by the choices that we make, and then different choices can mean different things. But I don't know, it's just, it gets very complex,
Well,
and
yeah, because they talk about free will a lot as well. They talk about
yeah,
causality a lot. They
yeah,
also talk about determinism a lot. So it's kind of like
mhm,
these aren't small things, and understandably so. Like if you're gonna have like it's brought into a movie, you can't just have like someone's just throw a one liner and be done with it. You kind of have to explain it. It's just that like the first movie was like they had a main theme. It was about belief in
mhm,
yourself, or belief in a
yeah,
higher power, or belief in like what you do.
mhm,
The next two films had literally the entirety of
eh,
philosophy thrown
yeah,
in, and thrown in with quantum physics, and you're like,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah. So yeah, so I felt like they didn't have a focal point. They were just trying to like, because of how enriched the first Matrix was in philosophy, but they stuck to one thing, and the basically the whole Matrix, like you were saying, is like, it's basically an unraveling of like you trying to discover who you are, and basically what, like in spirituality, they often say that there's like, they speak to the concept of like an ego death, right? Your ego is like your sense of self, like who you
Yeah,
identify as, right? And then, but it's not who your ego is not essentially who you are, right? Your ego is like, it's like a mask or a facade that you wear, basically, right? And so Matrix is heavily predicated on that, and how you're trying to like unravel who you truly are, become the person that you were meant to be, but that has to come from a place of knowing and not thinking. So like the whole time Neo is battling with that
yeah,
challenge of like really knowing that he is the one and believing that wholeheartedly, but his ego wouldn't allow him to, and so he had to experience like an ego death, or in this case like he died in the Matrix momentarily before he could truly ascend and believe that he was the one, right? um and then like you're saying, like in the other two, it was just kind of like, yeah, we're gonna throw in everything and just hope that this shit sticks and it makes sense. So yeah, it kind of missed the mark on that, in that regard. Um, I felt like everything kind of came around full circle, but in a very convoluted mess. Um, and so, like I said, there was good stuff sprinkled in throughout the franchise, but yeah, the first one is obviously the best one. And with that being said, I am excited to see how this fourth one kind of unravels. But before
mhm.
I go on and get into that, did you actually hear? So I was on TikTok, and I came across a video of this girl, and I haven't done a deep enough dive into it to see how accurate it is. I don't know if there's any validity to it, but there's a girl claiming that she is the original writer of The Matrix and also Terminator, and that it was her original script was stolen, And till this day, she's been trying to fight to get the rights back and get the credit that she deserves. And what's weird about it is there's a video. If I find it again, I'll send it to you. But
Yeah.
she's talking about how Terminator and the Matrix are actually connected, and that Sarah Connor is actually Neo's mother. It was
What?
weird. I was like, yeah, I was like, how was that a thing? And she was like trying to make it seem like it was like, so the Matrix is like years into the future, and then Terminator is set like obviously like for like behind in the past, right? And so Sarah Connor is the mother to Neo somehow. I don't know how
So
any of that
Neo
made
is
sense.
John Connor?
Okay, hold up a second. So that part, let's back off of that, because I actually have, when I at first like this doesn't make sense, but then I had this one thought: if they got to the Matrix, the Matrix, or all the people inside those pods, how would they physically have done that? We never really, we see the things that move them around, but if you think about Terminator and you think about the robots, they would be able to kill and capture humans. And then
The Animatrix showed how they captured humans and put them.
yeah, I know, obviously. Well, and Ron also called out that the Animatrix is how she learned to grasp it. But I'm saying, if this was stolen from somebody and they had a different story, the Animatrix is irrelevant to that, to the original story. So if you're saying that like that they're interconnected, then the actual robots from Terminator would explain how they would actually have captured them, and the robots that we see and stuff like that within the movie could have been changed, or they could just be worker bots, right? Compared to the soldier bots. And then you would be able to find a way to connect that, Sarah Connor is the mother, and maybe there's like, the child got captured, and down the line, that's how the Matrix comes into play. Like, she does all she can to try to save her child from being captured, and in the end, she fails, and he ends up getting stuck inside the Matrix. That's an interesting thought. Like, it definitely feels crazy when you look at those two films and how they be interconnected. But if you separate the fact that an original story was written and they were changed to what we know, then there's actually a whole different plausible story here.
That is fascinating, though. Okay.
Very. Like I don't know how like if there's any validity to it. I just came across it on TikTok, and I was like, what? So like I did a quick search, and like there's like debate. Okay. There's like debate about it. Like, oh, sorry, because I was gonna pull to something else, but
okay.
Yeah. So, but there's been like a debate about it, like of what, like she's like, a lot of people are like, nah, she's crazy, she's just talking shit, and other people are like, no, this is facts. Like, she actually wrote she owns the rights, or she doesn't own the rights. She's trying to get the rights, but she was the original writer of The Matrix and Terminator, and they were actually one in the same story, and then eventually were split once she lost the rights or something. I don't know what the main story is, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do a deep dive on that later, because that would be like, I mean, it's not unheard of for that stuff, but
and maybe that's why the sequels were so bad.
I mean, because let's look at like the concept of the Matrix and the concept of Terminator 2, or Terminator and then Terminator 2. No, not even Terminator 2, just Terminator. So the concept of Terminator and the concept of the Matrix. Darcy, you're right. If you're not going to include the modern day iterations and the modern day like changes that might have happened, like if this was made back in like the 80s, they actually would fit together.
Yeah, because like, I mean, I don't know if how the story would have played out, and like it could be very different, and they could have been both, like what we saw in both films could be happening simultaneously, and we'd see it all together. But if you took those two films and said, how would you put those two films together, then Terminator is the precursor to the Matrix. It's the setting up for kind of like Infinity War and Endgame, in a way that where it's like you anticipate that the heroes will win and they don't. And then here's the consequence of them not winning. And it could be several years later, and all these people are now in the thing that they were trying to prevent, or it's like just even a year later, and the main character from the first one, it ends up being in the second one, and you see that he's been captured, and he doesn't even realize that he's stuck in this program for a period of time. I mean, that this sounds like a really dope story.
Yeah, that I was just want to say that would make a fire trilogy, man. Like if they were tied in together, because obviously the first Terminator was hugely successful. First Matrix was hugely successful, right? And if you combine those together, whether you do them as like separate movies or like Darcy was saying, you kind of blend the stories together a little bit, I think that would be a solid film, man. And then you and then the third movie, you do obviously what they were trying to do with the Matrix Revelations, but you just end it so it comes around full circle.
That's pretty dope and sad for this woman, but pretty dope.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, look, that's all I gotta say about this. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
Well, what was your biggest takeaway from the Matrix as a whole? Like, is there anything?
The whole trilogy?
Yeah, like, or if you want to just isolate and pick one movie, like what? Because I have a bunch that I've learned from or that I've taken away from, but like I'm curious as to what you took from it.
I would say like what I found there are a couple things that I found. Please don't focus on me; it makes me feel uncomfortable. I want to be seeing your faces while I do this. But
do what? That was a weird setup. I don't want you to see my face while you do hate. Bro, just don't say it like that.
Why you gotta bring it there? Why you gotta bring? I was just talking about faces anyway. So first things first, I would say that I loved connecting with the view of belief and a belief in oneself from the first film. That still hit home for me, and like I was like, I didn't know it when I was a kid because I was watching it more from a linear, like from like a literal storytelling.
Yeah.
But like watching it this time around, being like seeing his journey of belief, even in himself, but like just like believing, was awesome. And also like showing how like the difference between fate and free will are kind of both together and also opposites in the same way, but ultimately are part like of the same thing. Which kind of goes back to something that in Age of Ultron, which I found to be a very interesting line, was when Vision was saying to Ultron, it's like humans are odd. They think that order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be. And I'm like, there's a little bit in like what I've learned from watching the first Matrix in like fate and free will. And then the second thing I took away was the level of control that was placed on humans, like the level of determinism that was forced upon them, and how their free will was never theirs because it was always indoctrinated in them. And that goes to the fact that I fully understood the steps that the machines made to kind of control humans. They put them in the Matrix. They made them subconsciously on some level accept the programming. And the ones that couldn't accept the programming, they released them to release their struggles because they couldn't be happy. And so let them suffer and toil, but also fight for a goal and give them a messiah that was actually ultimately theirs. Like it was like something that they had placed on there to control them, to pacify them, and then wipe them out after getting them all in a group, wipe them out and start fresh. And I was like, that is fucked up. Like, it makes sense because you're looking at it from a logical perspective. This is the best way to psychologically manipulate a group of people to be enslaved and not fight back. But if you look at it from like a personal, emotional level, that is some serious fucked up like stuff you're doing to humans. But at the same time, after watching the Animatrix, humans kind of deserved it. Like these people just wanted to exist, and they were like, "No, we're going to enslave you." Oh wait, you don't want to be enslaved? Fine, we're not going to let you live your own life like free into another country. We're going to reject all of your attempts for peace, and then we're going to blot out the sun so that you will die. what else were they like? What else would an intelligent species who's like empirically learning things would do? They're going to enslave those people and make sure that they run forever. So like, it was all fascinating conceptually, but like I was saying, and also like you're kind of like also reiterating, the execution after the first one just did not land.
Yeah.
And we did not need to make Neo Jesus.
I have a question.
Go.
Because some of the stuff you said there is like intriguing me to want to rewatch something. If I were to want to rewatch anything, should I just watch one in this order, Animatrix, before the rest of them, because it's supposed to be, it's like a prequel, right? Like in terms of information. So I'm thinking like, should I just go Animatrix, Matrix, and stop there?
Well, I would say watch Matrix, then Animatrix, and stop there.
Okay. I think I can get down with that maybe because you're reminding me of some of the Animatrix stuff that I've forgotten, and I'm like, I kind of want to rewatch that right now.
So Ron R just says, I've always loved that the movie highlights how our reality is created by us. We shape it with our reactions to our experiences. Yeah,
and that right there is what resonated with me the most in terms of the first Matrix with the boy and the spoon, right? Because that solidifies what Ron R just said right there, right? That was the whole point of, like, I took that when I first watched it before I was well read. I took that shit literally. I was like, oh, okay. What does that mean? There is no spoon. I see the spoon right there. And then I didn't realize the metaphor behind what he was saying. And now I apply that to my everyday life. In fact, I want to get like a tattoo of that somewhere. But yeah.
And also kind of like what you were saying, Tactix, like when I was watching the Kung Fu scene in the first movie, like when they're training and after he beats him, it's like, yo, how did I beat you? And he's like, well, you're too fast. It's like, do you realize that do you really think that my muscles and me like have anything to do in this place? Like, do you think that's even the air? You think right now you're breathing air?
Yeah.
And it's like, and I was like, and then he even says, stop trying to hit me and hit me. Yeah. And I'm just like, I was watching this, I'm like, yo, this is like, how did I miss this as a kid? I'm like, oh, because I was stupid.
Because it's very synonymous with like what Bruce Lee's teachings were in terms of like, don't think, feel, right? Like that's always kind of resonated with me too, right? In the sense of like when you think, you're too distracted, you're not seeing the bigger picture as opposed to like feeling with your intuition, your gut instincts. That's what's going to get you through, and that's what's going to move you forward. But we get too caught up in our own mind, and our mind consistently tells us stories, or they're fabrications of our reality, right? And they're not to be trusted, right? But your body always speaks the truth. Your body's always honest, right? So that's what I took from that, and I found that really fascinating and interesting. And there's a lot of philosophical concepts that I still hold to this day. Yeah.
Tactix. When you get that tattoo of There Is No Spoon, can you make them do the spoon from Toy Story?
The spork?
Yeah, the spork. Yeah, There Is No Spoon. It popped into my head, and I'm like, I gotta say this. This is too good. you know, like I actually, it would be a great T-shirt, because you know those T-shirts where they cross two things, like in general, and then it's like whatever. Yeah, that would be great. There is no spoon, and it's a spork, and it's just like, what? So good.
I feel
that's actually pretty clever, yo.
That's exactly. I actually like that a lot.
I love those shirts. I have a T-shirt. It's like a pajama shirt for me, and it's called, instead of Jaws, like the cover, it's paws, and then it's a cat, like a giant cat with his paw going up, and there's like a dog paddling along the top instead of like a person on a surfboard. I'm like, yo, like I love those shirts.
Oh man.
All right, well, that's it for me. I'm going to volley it back to you, Tactix. Oh my God, what is wrong with my enunciation today?
We're on with Tactix. Let's go.
All right, well, this has been another edition of the Geeky Bros podcast. I'm your boy Tactix.
Yo, it's just Darcy here.
And this is Big Geek Umar, finally getting to say his name correctly. And also, please like and subscribe. And
Did you say correctly?
Correct. That's what I
you
heard
didn't
too.
hear nothing. I said correctly. I said correctly.
Well, we have the
I just said
playback.
correct. I heard. I said correctly. I know. I was trying to keep going. Anyway, like and subscribe and live long and prosper, y'all.
We'll be back.
Will we?
Terminator.